Welcome to Shutdown Stories, episode 16. I'm here with Erie Seawolves on-air voice, Greg. I'm gonna botch this again. Greg Gania. Gania. I'm so sorry, Greg Gania. Greg, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you taking some time.
Absolutely, happy to be here.
So we talked a little bit the other day about your journey into where you are now and being the voice of the Seawolves. But why don't you share that with our listeners? Because I certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I always tell people I've never had a real job. I got started in baseball when I was 16 years old, and a minor league team had moved to my hometown, the Mahoning Valley Scrappers, and got a job at 16 in their concession stand. Worked my way up. When it was time for me to get an internship, went into the GM and said, "Hey, I want to be a part of the organization. Is there any internships available that I could jump on?" And he asked me, well, what's my career path? And I told him it was broadcasting. And then later on that winter, I had received a phone call from him saying there was an opening in their broadcast spot and wanted to know if I'd be interested in it. So, of course, as a 20-year-old kid who's looking to break into the business, I was sitting in my dorm room. I got the call, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in. So I did that for 3 years. And like most short season teams, there's not a whole lot of full-time opportunities with the limited staffs that they have at those levels. So I had the opportunity to go back as a seasonal broadcaster, but obviously at some point the bills were going to start coming from college. And so it was actually at the GM's wedding that I ran into someone from Erie, because the two teams were mutually owned at the time. And I was sitting there talking with him at the wedding, and he goes, "Hey, we might have an opening." So I'm like, "All right, keep me in mind." He goes, "Well, send me your resume." Did that. Didn't hear anything for a little while. And it got to be January, and they brought me in for an interview, and I got the job. So I started in Erie in March of 2006. I want to say it was 2012. I got promoted to assistant GM of communications. And fancy title for more work is what it boils down to. So I went from, getting here, just doing broadcasting and PR, to now I'm in a situation where I oversee all team communications. I oversee our entertainment department, oversee baseball operations, all of that in addition to my play-by-play duties. So it's a year-round grind for me. And so obviously with this shutdown, it's been kind of weird because I'm used to, since I was 20 years old, I don't know how many, what's that, 17 years I've been broadcasting right now, and to not have that happening is it's an odd feeling for sure. But that's kind of my story and how I got here.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much get your dream shot in college. That's what everybody wants to get. You mentioned the shutdown, how this is the first time in pretty much 17 years that you haven't been calling games as we're into the beginning of June. What have you been doing? Have there been jobs still to do with the Seawolves and getting the organization ready for hopes of a season?
Yeah, so we've maintained our full-time staff on the payroll. So we've been just basically, it's kind of twofold. So we've been working towards if we play games this season. But as this continues to drag on, I think everybody kind of realized the writings on the wall that might not happen. And so now a lot of our focus is, pushing towards 2021 and what that looks like. And, the minute we can get a schedule for 2021, we could start working on that. So it's twofold, trying to keep the fans engaged right now. Obviously, in minor league baseball, the majority of your income comes in April through September. So it's finding unique ways to bring in revenue for the team. A lot of that comes through merchandise sales and other creative things that we've done. Unfortunately, right now, we have not been able to, even with some relaxed restrictions, host ballpark events because our ballpark is under construction. And so we haven't been able to really go down that road yet. I assume once that construction is wrapped up or we recover some areas of the ballpark, we'll be able to do some off-season events in the facility. But right now it's just a lot of it's fan engagement and trying to keep the fans, it's funny because sports transcends everything in the world, whether it be, political views and differences or, religious or, whatever differences people have, sports kind of brings everybody together. And so obviously it's a very polarized time right now in our country. And it's, we, even through our social media, if we can kind of be that outlet for people and just, bring some positivity, then I think that we're doing a good job.
So you said that you kind of see the writing on the wall and have started to look towards 2021. How much more difficult does that make your job specifically, as far as being ready to go on air and call baseball games, but also with the fan engagement? I mean, obviously for minor league teams, they're not necessarily the biggest show in town, although in some of the smaller towns they are. But
Sure.
what have you been able to do to get that fan engagement without games pretty much every day?
A lot of it's social media content, just trying to engage fans on there. We've done a lot with the local media. It seems like I'm on every week giving an update story, whether it's on construction or whether it's based on the season. It's tough. And I say the writing's on the wall just in the sense that we're at June 3rd right now. And it just doesn't seem like there is enough progress being made, at least publicly, for number one, getting Major League Baseball back on track, because that's number one, first and foremost. Once they get that settled, then I think they'll devise the plan for the minor leagues, and whether that's playing a limited number of games or whether that's playing no games. I think that shoe will drop once the Major League Baseball folks kind of figure out what they're doing on their level. So it's a lot of waiting and seeing. But anything we can do to engage is really our what we're focused on right now. And we have, you never want to be sitting here not playing baseball games, but we kind of have a gift in the fact that our ballpark is completely under construction still. And so there has been no better fan engagement than people wanting to see what the ballpark looks like. And doing a lot of photo galleries and news stories out of the ballpark just based on construction. We have that benefit right now where some teams don't.
You mentioned that your role is much more than broadcast, which is why you're doing so much with social media and updates right now. On the broadcast side, what are you doing to stay sharp in case that writing doesn't say, hey, no baseball this year, but you do get a chance to call games this summer?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me that question, and I think when you have, obviously everybody gets rusty when you don't call games for a long period of time, and that first week of games to start every season is never the most clean, crisp games that you're going to broadcast. It's, I think, doing this for as long as I have, it's just, like walking and chewing gum. And you just go right back in and you start back up and you do it again. Now there is so much in the world to consume with prospects and everything that's being reported on players and what players are doing. You just try to keep a pulse on what's going on in the baseball world. And like I said, there's so many prospect resources now, and with being a Tigers affiliate, that the focus is on the minor leagues. And so there's a lot of opportunities just to be a sponge and consume as much as you can. So if and when we are able to play a game, whether it's this season, whether it's next season, then you're prepared in that sense.
Since you mentioned that the Seawolves are a Tigers affiliate, I know you and I talked about the fact that you've had a chance to call a few Tigers games. What were those experiences like?
Wow. So it was right after our season in 2018 that I got my first call up to the Bigs. They had shifted Dan Dickerson over to do television for a night and needed someone to fill in. And so I literally, it was a Friday, the first Friday after the season ended. So I had taken the day off, and I want to say I went to the gym and my phone was just blowing up, and it was one of the guys that worked for the Seawolves who had previously interned in Detroit. And he goes, "Hey, Stan from the Tigers is trying to get a hold of you. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they need, but he needs you to call him immediately." So, when you hear that, you don't think much of it. And then I call him back and he goes, "Are you available?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm available on Saturday night. What's up?" And he goes, "Well, I need someone for Tigers play-by-play." And I don't know how I didn't fall over, because that's what we work for. When you're in the minor leagues and you're pursuing this dream, you're working towards that goal, and it finally came to reality. And so I made my major league debut in September of 18. They had me back for a game in spring training last season, and then I had 2 spring training games on the plate for this season. And I'm on their short list of guys to fill in right now. And that's, as a minor league broadcaster, that's all you can ask for is opportunities. You obviously have to go up there and perform when you do. But the opportunities that are few and far between, and I was very lucky to get my big shot and call a regular season game. Once I did that, the spring training game was like, it's just a piece of cake. It's just another game. That was a nerve-wracking experience. But people always ask, were you nervous? And I drove to Detroit. I immediately ran and got a haircut and had dinner, and I drove to Detroit that night. Listened to the Tiger broadcast along the way because I knew a lot about the Tigers because we're obviously an affiliate. I had no clue about anything with the St. Louis Cardinals. I couldn't tell you. I mean, being an American League affiliate, you kind of pay attention a little bit as much as you can to what the other teams in the Central are doing. I had no idea anything about St. Louis. So I got to my hotel. They set me up in a nice hotel in downtown Detroit. And I basically just started calling every scout that I knew, any mutual contact in the industry that can give me some information on some guys. So I basically prepped till about 2 a.m. That night. And obviously, the adrenaline was flowing, couldn't sleep. Get up the next day, started, studying again, had some lunch, started studying again. And finally, I was just like, okay, if I am in a situation where it's information overload, I'm going to blow this opportunity. And I finally said, okay, I know how to call a baseball game, and I have enough notes and enough preparation to know where, I can go in there and do the best that I can do. And I did. And once I got to the ballpark and sat in that booth, there were no nerves whatsoever. And it was just like, okay, I belong here. And, that you kind of have to tell yourself that they're not going to just put anybody on a Major League Baseball game, let alone a regular season Major League Baseball game. And the fact that the Tigers were confident in my abilities, I went in there and I just did what I did, and nothing but positive reviews, and indicative of the fact that they had asked me back.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat that. It sounds like you took great advantage of it. So I actually grew up with season tickets to the Toledo Mud Hens, the Tigers AAA team. So I have a deep-seated love for minor league baseball. One of the only things you can do.
I'm going to flip my screen real quick here for you.
Okay. Oh, you got the Mud Hens. Oh, okay. There you go. So, yeah, great. My sister-in-law went to Bowling Green. So the whole area, that's my childhood. But because of that, and because there's not a whole lot else sports-wise besides Mud Hens going on in Toledo, I love minor league baseball. It was one of the most fun things that I can remember about my childhood. What is so special about minor league baseball to you? You've been with the Seawolves for 17 years. You've been in the minors for your entire career. What's something that's special about those lower levels that people who are just casual MLB fans probably don't know about?
We always say we're in the memory making business. And there's a lot of truth to that. And, a lot of times we're a kid's first introduction to a professional baseball game. And that's special. And, people always say, what would you do if you weren't doing this? And the reality is I don't know that answer. It's so gratifying when you have a sold out crowd and fans leave happy and you've made an impact on somebody's life. And that's what we do at the minor league level. With every job, there are ups and downs, and, there are stressful days during the season. There are stressful days in the off season, but, those are far over here as, compared to the gratification you get of doing this job every day. It's also, I enjoy it because it's unique. Every day is something different. I've said on the air many times, you never know who you're going to run into at the ballpark, and you never do. I walked into our manager's office one day, and Al Kaline was sitting on the couch in our manager's office. The fact that I can walk up to Jim Leland and he knows who I am, and he's another Northwest Ohio guy, Jim Leland.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, it's something unique every day, and every day is different. And when I literally say no day is the same in this business, I've been between Mahoning Valley and Erie. I've been broadcasting for 17 years, and I can't tell you that there has been one day that's the same as the next. Now, right now, what we're going through is like Groundhog Day, and this is miserable. Yeah. But once you're playing games, it's different, and you truly feel like you're making an impact in your community, and impact with the fans who come to games.
Awesome. Well, Greg, I can't thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate you coming.
Oh, this was easy. I thought you were going to have tough questions for me.
Oh, no, come on. This is to hear about what people are doing when they can't talk about sports or can't play their sports. It's
if
something
you
that's hit
follow me
hard.
on any social media channels, I think the one thing that I have found I've always loved cooking, and so that's kind of always been my outlet in life, is to sit in the kitchen for 4 hours and slave over good food. And so this says my fiance and my dog have been very spoiled by me being home throughout this whole pandemic, because we're eating good every night. But that's when I'm away from the ballpark, it's golf, it's family time, it's my dog, my fiance, and my cooking. And so that's how I've kind of survived, because this has been tough. It's been tough on everybody. And, you just hope that everybody that friends and family, can stay healthy. And baseball will be back. And that's, we all know baseball will be back at some point. What that looks like right now, I don't know. What stadiums are going to look like, I don't think anybody knows right now. But you just hope for the best. And, like I said, we'll be back, and it's just a matter of when.
Yep. Hang on to that thought. Baseball will be back. All sports will be back. Thanks again, Greg.
All right. Thanks.